Hello, good afternoon, everybody. We are very glad to be at this session with all of you. We will start the session by introducing ourselves. So I will start and then I will give the floor to my colleague. I am Rosina Malagrida, and I am the head of the Living Lab for Health at IRSI in Barcelona. And together with my colleague, we are running a transformative network, which is called Fit for Food, to transform the model of promotion of healthy and sustainable diets in Barcelona. And now I give the floor to my colleague, Marina Pino.
Thank you, Rosina. So hello, everybody. As Rosina said, I am Marina Pino, and I work with her at the Living Lab for Health at IRSI. And specifically, I'm the project manager of the Fit for Food project that we will present you today. So thank you for being here. And now I pass the floor to the other speakers. So, for example, Eva Valencia.
Hello, good afternoon to all. My name is Eva Valencia. I'm the co-founder of Circular Coalition, which is an initiative created for sustainability transitions. And we're going to present to you soon more about our research ideas of how to do this and what we have done in the initiative for Mexico City. I pass the floor to Michelle, who is also working on the initiative.
Great, thank you. So Eva and I are a team. We are working together in this Tricolor Coalition, and we will be presenting exactly what Eva said. My name is Michelle Nader Sayun, and very nice to meet you all, and thank you for letting us present this interesting project. Next we have...
Hi. My name is Anandi Iyer. I am heading the Fraunhofer in India for the last 14 years, along with my colleagues Mark, who's not here today, and my colleague Aditya, whose happy birthday it is today. So let's wish him a happy birthday. We will be presenting the Water Innovation Hub, which we are putting together in India. Aditya, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aditya Fuke, and I'm working as manager for Smart Cities and IoT with Fraunhofer Office India. I'm assisting Mrs. Iyer to put together the presentation on AquaHub, which is the Water Innovation Hub for today's session. Thank you.
Hi, sorry about the delay. I had trouble joining. I guess sorry I missed some of what you were saying, but I think we're introducing yourselves.
We just did, yes.
Is the first presentation, I believe, will be the food for...
Yes, okay, thank you, Rob.
Fit for Food Barcelona, yeah. So please do continue, and I'll try and catch up with what's happening as the...
Thank you very much. Shall we start then? Okay, so we are going to start. I'm not sure if you are seeing the slides. If it's possible, it would be great if we can share the slides. Okay, that's great. Fantastic. Then we can start right now. Okay, so we are going to talk about Fit for Food Barcelona, which is a transition network that we have created, and we are working on it in Barcelona to transform the system of promotion of healthy and sustainable diets. This is a very huge challenge, and actually the food system, transforming the food system is in itself a huge challenge, and it is composed of different big challenges. For example, there are social challenges, like, for example, the fact that the population in the world is increasing, and this means that in 2050 we will have a 60% increase in food production. In terms of health, for example, we know, just to name one of the problems we are facing, that we have every year 4 million deaths globally. And in the environmental sector, we can see, for example, that the food system is responsible for the production of between the 20 and 35% of the greenhouse gas emissions. And these are just some of the big challenges that we are facing, among other ones, in the economic, political, and technological areas.
Rosina, sorry, we cannot see the slide that you are presenting right now. We only see the first one.
It's very strange. Okay, let me. Now, okay, then I will show them like that. Okay.
And put also the other mode, so we can see it bigger.
If I put the other mode, it's the problem we had before. So I will leave it like this, and I think they can already see the slides. Okay, if I put full screen, then you don't see it. You see, are you seeing it now? It's very strange. Okay. Okay, so I will start again. So as I was saying, there are many challenges in different areas of the system, and this explains why the problems in this system are persistent, and it's because they are complex and they are interconnected. And we can see that in several food systems maps that have been published in several publications, and we know that the solutions for this system interact with many socio-technical regimes in our society, and for that reason we need to take them into account in order to have the impact that we would like to have with the solutions that we want to launch into the system to transform it. However, we still perceive that most of the solutions are designed by looking only sometimes at a part of the iceberg, let's say, so seeing only part of the problem, because sometimes we still think as if the problems were complicated, but we don't still dedicate enough time to think about them as if they were complex. And also, the other problem we are facing is that we organize ourselves, like, for example, organizations that are launching initiatives to transform the system. We organize these organizations as if we were in the previous paradigm where we were not so much interconnected, but today we are in a new paradigm that is very much interconnected, but we still don't know how to work among the different organizations in this new paradigm. And we know that with the support of a network, of a transition network like the one we are supporting, we can get a more effective emerging system. So in this context, we ask this question: how can we improve the promotion of healthy and sustainable diets with an integrated approach between the health system and the urban, peri-urban, and rural environments in a more and more interconnected and complex world? And our aim here was to design a systemic, collaborative, and decentralized model of promotion of healthy and sustainable diets. But the question is, okay, but how can we design this new model? And most of all, how can we make sure that we get all the stakeholders engaged in this new model? So what we tried to do here is to apply a different methodology than the one that was being implemented currently in Barcelona. We moved from a focus of innovation, which was already changing to this new paradigm where we are focusing on the end user, towards a new paradigm where we were focusing not only on the benefit of the end user, but mostly on the benefit of all the stakeholders within the whole system. So we started by drawing this stakeholder map, where you can see that there are different areas in the system and identifying a wide variety of stakeholders. We also started by defining the conceptual frame where we would frame our research, and we decided that we would take an RRI approach, which means responsible research and innovation approach, which means that every research and innovation that should take place within the network, meaning that all stakeholders in the network who conduct research should be conducting it with the characteristics of responsible research and innovation, which, as a summary, means that it should respond to the needs and expectation of the wide diversity of stakeholders involved. And then we also got this system innovation approach, which means that innovation should benefit the cost effectiveness of the organization's interventions. So At the end, any innovation in the network should be for the benefit of the whole system. And how did we start doing this research? Well, we know that in order to achieve these goals of promoting innovation or promoting a context where all interventions of all the stakeholders get benefited and then therefore move in a similar direction, we need to develop 3 sorts of knowledge. The first sort of knowledge is to understand the system. We need all the stakeholders to understand the system, so we started by mapping the system, by developing a system map to answer the question that you can see on the slide. Why is it so difficult to solve the challenge we are trying to solve? And we try to understand the system with key factors and also the dynamics, the interconnections, and the elements that were hindering change, the key limiting factors. Next, we moved to the second sort of knowledge, which was the target knowledge. And we designed together a similar narrative like the one that came with the system map to describe a future situation where the key limiting factors identified before were overcome. And this was our shared future vision. And here, in this future vision, we could identify changes in intentionalities of the organizations, because we were thinking big. We really wanted to solve persistent and complex challenges that we were facing. And once we had done these 2 sorts of knowledge, we moved to the third one, which was the transition knowledge, where we tried to understand where were changes happening in the direction of our shared vision and how were they happening, which facilitators and which barriers were in place to make this happen. And with all this knowledge, and also by exploring good practices and research and innovation that was taking place in that direction, we could move to this transition knowledge towards an action plan, a collective action plan. For this transition knowledge, we had two sorts of knowledge that we developed. First of all, we presented to them what we call the creative tension. And we created this creative tension at individual, at organizational, and at collective levels. And we asked participants to think about which changes are needed to achieve the vision and which factors were limiting us to go in that direction. And next, we moved to the second sort of knowledge, which were the facilitators for change. We identified which elements were facilitating the change, and then we moved to identify some solutions. Okay, and the elements for change, of course, were the elements of the multi-level perspective, which included, for example, best practices and research and innovation lines that were in place. Next, we thought, okay, now that we have all this knowledge and that we have all this ideation of solutions, we need to think about the organizational model among all of us. And if we see that the current system is so complex, how should the solutions look like? We thought that with these intentional changes, we should design this collective action plan. So we moved to the results now, and as a result, what we got with all of this was a wide variety of stakeholders involved, and involved in a new way of problem solving with dynamic, iterative, mutual learning processes, taking into account complexity with a strategic reflection both at organizational and at collective level, and also at individual level at some time. So these levels were very important. And then always with this focus on systemic change, by changing strategies of the organizations, but also by building these collective strategies among all of us. Among the inspiring practices that we identified during the transition knowledge process, we could see that, for example, Airbnb was one of our inspiring practice, because we thought that this organizational model should allow to solve a big problem that there is in the health promotion sector, which is that we cannot arrive to all the population. And we thought that Airbnb was a very good example of how a platform can change a system and grow on itself around the world and change the system. Then we also thought of Alcohólicos Anónimos, which is this NGO that has groups of change where the people who go through the group of change then conducts or facilitates another group of change. And in that manner, this NGO has grown in a very impressive way all throughout Europe. So we thought that this was also an inspiring practice. Then we had also mutual aid networks, and then another network in our area, which is called New School 21st, which is a network that is accelerating change in the educational sector in our area. We thought that all these were inspiring to come up with our main result, which is our proposal of organizational model for the promotion of healthy and sustainable diets. And we propose to organize as it is shown in this drawing here. As you can see, here we can see all the organizations that are involved in the network that are organized in what we call innovation teams, and they run innovation programs. Next, my colleague Marina will present you the innovation programs that we are running, and basically they work collaboratively and in a decentralized way, but with common aims to achieve a vision. But then these innovation teams, what they do is we organize then meetings to work as a network as well. And at this level here, what we do is a strategic reflection and assessment, also communication, and very important collaborative monitoring with decentralized data. And then one step above, we have the political assessment. So we have steering committees at borough or neighborhood level, at city level, at regional level, at national level, and at international level. Here at the bottom is the most important part of this organizational model, which are the citizens. And here we have citizens at large, not organized, but also citizens organized. And we need to address both. And these ones organized, one of the innovation teams is creating these groups that I mentioned in Alcohólicos Anonymous, these change groups that are facilitating change. And we think that this is very important because it will allow this growth that can grow on its own, let's say, all around, hopefully, not only at local level, but then expanding in different neighborhoods in Barcelona. And in the future, we hope, like the NGO, to be able to grow globally. And now I give the floor to my colleague Marina, who will explain you the examples of assets that we will get from the 8 innovation programs.
Thank you, Rosina. So in these 8 innovation programs, we have more than 46 participants from 24 organizations that are fully committed to conduct and develop further these 8 innovation programs. As you can see here on the slide, we have several innovation programs divided in several themes or strategic lines. For example, we have the first innovation programs focus on how to develop this organizational model through this network that we are building. And for that, we will also create this digital platform that Rosina explained. And also, apart from this program devoted to facilitate this network, we have also another program focused on accompanying citizens in these dietary change habits throughout change groups. And another innovation programs that we have are focused on improving the food availability, accessibility, and affordability. And our main goals are here to improve food access, improve the model of public procurement that we have here in our area, and also develop recommendations for improving the local food supply. And finally, some initiatives focus on promoting the right to food. And also another program that we have is focused on education and how we integrate participatory research in the neighborhood. And we will do it in collaboration with schools and universities that are already working in this innovation program. And finally, we have another one focused on communication and how we create this digital platform for mutual exchange, and that also recommends activities to citizens, and it is also a platform for co-creation. the network. And this digital platform will be supported by a WhatsApp group, and also we also plan to develop scientific publications. So now I pass the floor to my colleague, that she will explain you the conclusions and the discussion.
Yes, just to finish, our conclusion is that our methodology has been effective to design an organizational model that facilitates a context where we promote innovation that benefits all the organizations in different areas of the system. And we can see that because the resulting innovation programs are promoting changes in different areas of the system. They are also benefiting the interventions of the organizations, and we can see that because of the low budget required, because all these organizations are working without budget from the network. So this means that the budget is their own budget, which means that we are responding to their needs. And then because they are benefiting also from this decentralized reflexive monitoring and this systemic understanding. And just to finish, the challenge here remains on how to deal with other challenges that are still interconnected with our challenge. So we believe that in the future, this sort of transition networks should work hand in hand with other networks in other challenges, but also in other geographical areas, expanding all at global level. And that's all from our side. Thank you very much.
Hello. Should we start already? Perfect. Well, now it's our turn. Good afternoon to all. My name is Eva Valencia, and together with Michelle Nader, we're going to present to you today our initiative from the Tricolor Coalition with the support of our members and partners. What we're going to present to you today is our tool to support sustainability transitions for the water, food, energy nexus policies using Mexico City as a case study. In order to make this presentation, we have divided it in 3 points. First, we're going to speak about which was the sustainability transitions criteria that we chose. Secondly, we will speak about how did we include the sustainability transitions criteria within a policy evaluation methodology in order for it to be useful for policymakers. And finally, how have we tested this methodology in our initiative, which is Mexico City's Donut Coalition. So let's start. We're going to start by explaining why did we choose sustainability transitions criteria. After some research, we realized that sustainability has been defined in various different ways at the international, national, and local levels. This has made it very confusing, abstract, and non-contextualizable for solving problems at different locations. For this reason, we were trying to look for a definition of sustainability to make transformations that could be clear, visual, measurable, and adaptable to each context, to different contexts. And we found the donut economics approach. What are the characteristics of this donut economics approach? It is a sustainability, socio-ecological systems thinking approach. Requires mainly 2 things, a social basis and an environmental ceiling. The first idea that was created with this approach was done internationally. And for this reason, it based the social foundation on the Sustainable Development Goals and the environmental ceiling on the planetary boundaries made by Stephen of Stockholm Resilience Center. And the goal of this system, as it proposes, is to find prosperity, to find the just and safe space for humanity to thrive. So now that we already had the definition, how can we use it to making an assessment criteria for policy? Well, how would policies fit into these sustainability transitions? We understood that there is currently a certain system that has sustainability challenges. However, in comparison, there is a safe and just space system that would be the donut that I just showed before. That would be the safe and just space that we want to be in. So what do the policies require to do for these sustainability transitions? To build the gap, to make the tools in order to change the current system to the one that we want to live in. But if we're speaking in policies terms, we have to see it from a policy perspective. For this reason, in order to develop this method, we developed a tool that compares the current policies with the policy that should be in place for a sustainability transition to find which are the policy gaps. But how can we analyze this? Analyzing their theory of change, the theory of change of the current policies, and what should be the theory of change of the sustainability policies. This means to make an impact evaluation assessment, analyzing the diagnostic, the inputs, the outputs, and outcomes of these current and sustainable policies, and see what is missing, what is already being developed, and what risks, what uncertainties are there that could lead us for a sustainability or a non-sustainability policies. Finding then the ongoing missing and risks towards the sustainability in the policies, we can, with this information, propose then which are the gaps of the topics and actions that need to be changed in the policies to make a sustainability transformation. And this was the method that we proposed. But then we had to see whether it was useful. So the case study that we used was Mexico City's water, energy, food sectors, as this city is one of the 5th most populated city around the world. Therefore, we would see a very big challenge of complexities, and we would see whether this is useful. For this, we soon learned that to develop this analysis that is useful for policymakers, the policymakers, but also other ages, had to be involved in the development of the content of this analysis. And that's what we're going to present to you now.
Great. So this is what Eva has been presenting. We have been testing out in real life. And if you can click on the next one, please. And then I will explain you a little bit of how we have been using this methodology, what results and what takeaways we have had so far, and of course our future plans, because this is a very ambitious project and we are very excited to bring it into the future of Mexico City. First of all, our vision with what we are creating is to generate governance processes to face context-sensitive social and environmental challenges for Mexico City. This is very important, particularly the context-sensitive part, as I will explain in a moment, because each of these challenges may happen across the world, but they have to be analyzed within a context in order to create interventions that can change them. Our mission is to create synergies between agents of change for sustainability transitions by using donuts economics theory, which is the basis for this project. To begin with, we have thought about which are the sectors that we can focus on, and we decided to work on energy, food, and water, and the nexus between these 3 sectors. This is because there is proven synergy between them already. There are several studies that already relate these 3 sectors, so it's easy to find information about them. They are clearly relevant, not only for Mexico City, but internationally. These are sectors that need to be reviewed in the future. And of course, the members of our coalition, we have certain background and knowledge about these sectors particularly, which also helps us to develop a strategy about them, around them. And then we have these 6 objectives from our project. First of all, we want to create this multi-stakeholder sustainability network, as I already mentioned. We want to co-create, it's very important for us, the participation of different sectors of the population. We want to co-create a common sustainability vision for Mexico City. So how would Mexico City look like once it transitions towards sustainability? We want to analyze the current unsustainable state of Mexico City. Where are we now? How do we understand where we are now? And of course, find the gap between this ideal moment and how we are now, and understand the change that we need to go through in order to achieve this ideal moment. Then we want to develop projects and synergies, working in the future as some sort of a living lab to develop sustainability-oriented projects. And finally, it's very important to monitor and evaluate the impact of the platform. So what we have done so far, we have a network of over 80 people, and we have already had several discussions, workshops, and other types of interactions. We have created a series of focus groups as well to understand from experts in water, food, energy nexus what we need to create this transition. We have also done some research, and we have found official indicators. It is very important for us, and we have found out, as I will explain in a moment, that there is a lot of information out there, and we should not work again to find that information if it's already there. And we have also had initial development of ideas for collaborative projects to create. This has all happened, of course, online, and these past couple of years, as you know, have been difficult otherwise, so everything has happened online so far. And what have we learned from this? Because it is something new to us, so there is a lot of trial and error or iteration that we are going through. First of all, this working in interdisciplinary teams like this, we all have different interests, and it's very important to facilitate this collaboration by creating this network and a platform for collaboration. It has been a big question, who decides and why? Who decides the indicators that we take into consideration? Who decides what the ideal Mexico City looks like? And this missing clarity is one thing that we still need to continue to work on. Then also we have seen that there are different levels of data available. There are many indicators and indexes that already exist, as I mentioned earlier. But at the same time, there are many indicators, particularly those related to social aspects, that are either missing or not official, or not also representative enough. And this is something that we would like to continue working on in the future. And finally, the capacities and the interests of all our actors are different. And this platform is this place where we can bring everyone together and have a conversation. But of course, we still have to breach these differences in what we want. So finally, our conclusion is that our challenge is to include sustainability transitions in policies. This is what we want, this is what we're aiming for, and hopefully this is what we will be able to do in the near future. We have created a methodological tool for this. We use comparative theory, theory of change and analysis between sustainability of the current models and the future models that we want to use. And we have also done some research to understand the system and how it is right now. If this methodology was useful, well, it has definitely created, helped us create our own definition of sustainability. It also has helped us to find some gaps in sustainability policy in Mexico City. And we hope that this can eventually bring recommendations on policies for the future. But at the same time, there are some disadvantages. The language that we use is complex. It has, we would like to be more inclusive, and this is something that takes work. We don't always show the technical barriers that cause these policy gaps. And sometimes it is difficult as well to involve actors that are not paid for this kind of job. So particularly non-governmental actors are more difficult to reach. And so we do not have every single perspective that we would like to include. So what is next? We want to continue developing this network. We have already several projects in hand. We need to create this platform and try to build a common language and vision for all our actors. And well, hopefully this social and ecological sustainability vision that we have for Mexico City will eventually become a reality. Thank you very much. And these are our contacts. Please feel free to follow us or check our site. We have more information about us there. And we will be answering some questions after the next presentation. So thank you.
So, hi everybody, my name is Anandi Iyer, and I head the Fraunhofer in India for the last 14 years. And along with my colleague Aditya Fuke, who heads our Smart Cities initiative, We will be presenting to you today a project that we're working on, which is transformation collaboration to accelerate research to market. The topic that we're covering is water innovation hubs. As we all know, water is an extremely important topic, is very related to the public sector, which means the government is heavily involved. At the same time, you need a range of users, whether it is the public departments or whether it is the user at the end of the pipe, or it's also the industry that produces various technologies. Everybody has to be in sync and in line. Over the last couple of years, we have identified the research challenge along with a few stakeholders from Germany as well, and from India. The main question that we want to solve within this collaboration is to develop a multi-stakeholder community and to develop solutions for water management in one particular city, which is in the west, called Jodhpur. We are looking at the subject of meta governance, which means that how does government become a facilitator? How does it become an enabler? Does it want to be part of the decision making process? Does it want to stand back and allow the process to take over and comes in with either funding or with other resources? How do you accelerate research from the labs to the market and create a viable business and innovation model which results in value creation for the community, and also demonstrate at the end of the day that transformation innovation can be replicated? You will see that in India, there is a very particular trend in innovation that has happened over the years, largely driven by the government. In the early years, there was a focus on fundamental research, followed by a very protectionist regime where innovation was not really supported, whereas production was licensed and also curtailed. The later years, 1991 to 2000, saw a major influx of reforms and globalization where industry got certain designs, certain drawings, and the arbitrage was through manufacturing and through scale as well as through the cost. Here, the government played a very, very important role in creating an enabling framework of the reforms. Thereafter, in 2000, the industry took out in a big way, and there was a growth of MNC, that is multinational corporation R&D centers in India. And here again, while cost arbitrage was important, the service and process innovation took center stage. However, in the last 10 years, the government is very seriously promoting the product innovation to come into India through the means of R&D hubs to startups, incubators, and developing indigenous R&D. In the next 5 years, the focus will be on self-reliance, and it is here that we want to see how the shaping of transformation challenges, transformation research works in tandem with meta-governance, that is the role of the government. Now, when you look at such a multi-stakeholder engagement, one of the main instruments that we use are clusters. While we talk of clusters in one breath, the fact is that there are various differences between clusters in developing countries and in developed countries. And you see on the slide, there are very typical examples of how they are different. First of all, it is driven by government in developing countries and also funded, whereas in advanced countries, it's largely driven by the industry and the government plays an enable role. Also, the participation of the entire value chain or not is a difference. But most importantly, from our perspective, we see that the technology readiness level is usually 5 to 9. That means very close to the market in advanced countries, whereas in the developing countries, it's still at the fundamental research. There is hardly any monitoring and evaluation in our country for funding given by the government. It is also the return on investment is also not really measured. This is more like a charity where you give it to an institution and hope that they will make good use of it. And there's also no deliberate effort for spin-offs, whereas in most developed countries, clusters really look at the role of the SME as well as spin-offs are a very key outcome. The next slide, please. So what are innovation clusters? We are looking at long-term partnerships between industry, university, and R&D organizations, and this multi-stakeholder participation is driven by a common goal. The government and policy enablement is extremely critical. and as is the evaluation of projects by external reviewers at appropriate levels. The challenges that you have in such a multi-stakeholder network are the roles and responsibilities of each partner that have to have a lot of clarity and have to be in sync. The appropriation of tech investments is extremely critical, which is why we are talking of ROI, and the scale of projects. That is, it does not just stay in that ecosystem, but it can be replicated and can be scaled. So these are the challenges that really come up in innovation clusters. How do we reinforce the strengths and create beacons of research? We partner with industry, university, and research organizations. And this is where we would like to showcase one of the case studies that we are working on. And I would like to hand this over to my colleague Aditya to take it forward from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Iyer. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Aditya Fuke, and I'm working as manager for Smart Cities and IoT with Fraunhofer Office India. AquaHub, which is also known as Water Innovation Hub, is a network of industries and research institutes from India and Germany working together with the municipal authorities and the related government agencies to develop business and innovation models in water and wastewater management to accelerate research to market. The aim of this project is to create a network of such innovation hubs and replicate it across major strategic cities of India. As you can see, Germany has decades of experience in management and treatment of water and wastewater. On the other hand, India is a huge market and has a very great demand in the water sector. And it could be a very, very attractive market for the German companies. So the objective is to increase cooperation and exchange between Indian and German stakeholders, which will in turn increase the access to the technologies that are made in Germany. These technologies will be then piloted in an exemplary manner to serve as lighthouse projects in water sector between the two nations. The project AquaHub is a result of one of the earlier projects coordinated by Fraunhofer, that is Smart Water Future India. This was implemented in the year 2018. The aim of this project was to conduct the integrated analysis of water management and infrastructure in the cities of Coimbatore and Solapur, which are which fall in the two major states of India, that are Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu respectively. In 2017, the partnership between the state of Maharashtra and the state of Baden-Württemberg was initiated, and Solapur was identified as the partner city. This was followed by visit of the delegation comprising of the companies and the state authorities of Baden-Württemberg, which undertook several assignments under this project that eventually led to the development of a larger project, that is AquaHub, which will address all the challenges in the water sector. So the approach was like a local manager was appointed in each city, Coimbatore and Solapur, who would engage with the local stakeholders, understand the local challenges, and facilitate discussion with the experts to develop solution and potential project opportunities. The projects that were developed as a result of this process in Coimbatore are development of semi-centralized sewage treatment systems, analysis of industrial wastewater and treatment, setting up water quality management, water quality monitoring system. And an example of smart water monitoring system is mentioned in this slide. Which is to access the contamination, access the level of contamination of drinking water and wastewater. Similarly, the project that was developed in the other city, that is Solapur, is setting up of a smart water monitoring system. You can see in this slide, it's basically the schematic of the entire technology system that was drafted and implemented in this city, Solapur. As I said earlier, the primary objective is to replicate innovation hubs in other cities of India and create a functional network between these hubs. So our new initiatives include setting up of a water innovation hub in the city of Jodhpur with one of the most premier technical universities of India, that is IIT Jodhpur. The objective or the focus areas are to set up a demonstration center for smart gridded water supply grid and advanced wastewater treatment pilot. The project proposal under this initiative has already been submitted to the Government of India for funding. The second initiative is in the state of Karnataka in two cities, Hubli, Dharwad, and the capital city of Karnataka, that is Bangalore. The focus areas include water quality treatment, access delivery and efficiency of water and its uses. The discussion under this initiative are still ongoing, and the proposal is underway. And these are our partners. These are the core management team and the project team, which constitutes of Fraunhofer IGB. Fraunhofer IGB stands for Fraunhofer Institute for Interfacial Engineering and Biotechnology, which is the lead institute, lead partner for the project AquaHub. The other partner is Institute for Socio-Ecological Research, and then UTBW. And the other network members of this project include the companies that work in German Water Partnership, Nivus, Trade, and one of the most prominent partners that we have in India is Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. It is one of it is one of the most advanced science and technology organization that is run by Government of India. These are our other initiatives, out of which one of the initiatives is Morgenstern Global Smart Cities, in which we focus on developing smart city models in the areas of wastewater treatment, renewable energy, resilient buildings, disaster management, and inclusive housing for the city of Kochi, that is in the South Indian state of Kerala. And the other initiative that we have is Showcase Plant India, in which we have conducted a feasibility study for transforming a wastewater treatment plant into a showcase plant for demonstration and training. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We do still have a little bit of time for some question and answer, perhaps discussion. There is currently a question in the chat and a comment. So specifically to Eva and Michelle then, the question from Diana, what methods are you using to engage with different communities within the city? Is the methodology expert driven? Perhaps you could give us some brief responses to that question.
Yes, sure. Thank you for the question. Yes, we're using stakeholder participatory methods, mainly stakeholder planning, stakeholder mapping. And then the challenge there was, how do you define an agent of change in order to do this stakeholder mapping? We're doing this stakeholder mapping throughout the supply chain of the water, food, and energy nexus, from government, state enterprises, NGOs, academic, and citizens. And also we're doing focus groups. Those are the two things that we're doing. And the focus groups, we're doing them online with Miro. And yes, those are the methods that we are employing to do this. Thank you.
Okay. Anything to add, Michelle? Or
yeah, well, as for the comment, if we can talk about that one as well.
Actually, please do, and then I want to actually open that up to everybody, because I think.
Oh, great. I think this is a very relevant comment, and first of all, I want to thank this person for writing this to us, because it's clearly something that everyone has to consider when we are speaking of issues sort of sustainable, so like these ones. So the thing here is that to think of a theory of change in such a complex city as Mexico City, we cannot think of linear problems. We can think, though, of interventions, and once we understand the system, we can think of concrete interventions that will catalyze change in the system. So no, of course we cannot frame, and definitely not casually, we cannot frame how this change is going to happen, but we can find certain actions that will catalyze change, and that's exactly what we're looking for. I hope this answers a little bit of this comment.
And I think I would just like to add there that that's the reason why we are choosing agents of change, in order to make the highest impact that we can, and then measure it and see how much impact did we achieve with this initiative, and see whether this initiative and the platform did make a change, rather than themselves just speaking amongst each other. So that's what we are trying to do, and trying to analyze with these governance processes to make it more practical.
Okay, there's more I suppose we could discuss on how do you measure impact, but let's move on to responses, or let's say thoughts on the the point made by Klaus, which I think this issue of non-linearity and theories of change and so on, and complexity is one that counts whatever transformative project you're trying to achieve or implement. So perhaps if we go to Rosina and Marina, perhaps if you've got any thoughts on this in the case of the Fit for Food project in Barcelona, on this issue of non-linearity and complexity in trying to achieve transformative change.
Yeah, Rob, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't really a question, but the comment from Klaus that the problem that, well, as he stated it, the problem you do not solve is not you, but the problem that's difficult to solve, let's say, is that a theory of change towards sort of sustainable development cannot be framed in terms of causality. So change is non-linear and highly complex in the case of his comment talking about Mexico City, but in the food system, for example, is highly complex and non-linear, and I suppose what I'm asking is what your thoughts are on implementing a project which is trying to achieve transformation when that transformation is very complex, and what kinds of issues perhaps that you've encountered, or the ways you've tried to address those issues of complexity and non-linearity in your projects. I don't know if that's any clearer, but yeah.
Yeah, this was exactly the main aim of our project, to focus on this complexity. And we believe that the engagement that we are getting with more than 24 organizations fully devoted with no budget from the network to work, and they are working together with no budget, this shows that actually we are responding to their needs, and we are responding to their needs and to benefit all of them thanks to this fact that we took into consideration complexity, non-causality, as this comment said, but exploring interlinks between different factors with feedback loops, with a system mapping, and also drawing together this future vision, and always exploring the elements both at collective level but also at organizational level, to make sure that we were identifying the needs of each organization. And this helped us to answer another comment above, which was asking how did we set up the teams. And they were set up by doing this sort of knowledge before. We could identify the solutions that they needed and the change they needed, and this facilitated the organization of the innovation teams.
Okay, and that links with the impact assessment, as it were, issue that occurred to me in the earlier response, not from you, from who was that from? From Eva, I think. So Anandi and Aditya, perhaps, do you have any thoughts on this issue of complexity and kind of non-linearity in your case? Can't hear you.
Yeah, thanks for that question. It is the complexity is definitely there also in our project, because it is also the contextual complexity, because we are working in different cities and the conditions are different, the needs are different, and also the problems are different. In some cases, the population is also extremely high, and somewhere they're not. For example, Coimbatore is a city with about 3 million people. Whereas if you were to go towards Jodhpur, it's about 5 million or 6 million. And that's a completely different scenario that we're working with. And in many cases, the user departments have different levels of knowledge and access to technology. So that is why we have set up these multi-stakeholder value chains where this information can be fed on a real-time basis. And what we are also trying to do is set up an observatory of data on water. One of the biggest problems that we face, and this relates to the fact that change is nonlinear and highly complex. Data sets that if you do not have the latest data sets, then you're working with old data sets, and that can be extremely counterproductive. So I think there are different levels of complexity, particularly when you work with issues that talk about transformational change, particularly in the SDI, the Sustainable Development Goals area. And there one has to be extremely clear in setting up systems that allow for change to flow in and then can be handled on a real-time basis.
And that, if you like, that final point you make there about handling on a real-time basis in the context of a project, which is usually very sort of very time constrained, doesn't go long into the future, and responding to the changes you see on the ground. How I suppose first of all, have you built that into the project? And if so, what does that look like, and what's the experience of trying to do that?
Well, bringing back the idea that you mentioned earlier about the assessment of impact, I think that's something very important to embed in a project from the beginning, and not every project embeds an impact assessment strategy from the beginning. And that probably answers a little bit to this as well. I'm very happy to see that we are all embracing the complexity of our projects, because they are very complex. But with the iterative nature of these type of projects, if we bring again this, we stop every now and then and do this evaluation again and again, then probably we can reach something a bit better.
Okay. And opening up to everybody, has anybody else got any thoughts either from the other projects or just individually thinking through this issue of monitoring your projects, being able to change what you do? How are these things built into your projects, or how would you like them to be built into your project?
I think also it depends on the resources that you have. So you start with one project, and then you see that there are resources and possibilities for it to move towards a certain direction. So you have to adapt it in order to be able to fill those needs. So I think that has to be able to do, like there has to be certain congruency and consistency through the project, but also as everything is moving, you have to also be able to move the project according to what the people and network that we're working with tells you of what the needs are. I think that's something important to remember.
And what we are trying to do is set up a technology audit and a financial audit at the end of every session, so that at least once a year these things are being done in a very systematic way, and the feedback mechanism from that flows into the next stage of project planning.
Okay, thanks. We're practically out of time, so let me take the opportunity first of all to apologize for my own incompetence using this platform. I'm still really learning what to do. I thought I understood what I was doing until put it into practice. So that's obviously something to learn on my side. But I think also in my defense, there were some actual technical issues as well with the platform. So it wasn't entirely my fault, but I certainly my incompetence didn't help. So let me thank you all for your patience and your presentations, and hopefully it was useful to you, and also to those who were watching, and thank you for the questions and so on. And so I guess we'll close the session now and let you all get on to the plenary. Thank you very much.